Welcome to episode 317 of the Whatnauts review show. Every episode, we pick a story and we talk about it. This could be a movie or a TV show or a comic, animated, live action, all sorts of genres, all sorts of entertainment. We watch it, read it, or listen to it, then we come back here and talk about it. My name is Melissa Wilkinson, and I am joined, as always, by my partner investigating the unknown, Kyle Springer.
Chicken to China, the Chinese chicken. You have a drumstick and your brain stops sticking. I watched The X-Files with all the lights on. Melissa, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for playing along.
Absolutely. I'm excited to be here. We're recording this on a Monday night because you just got back from a trip. How was that?
Yes. Terrific. I went to Madison, Wisconsin. I had a cousin graduate with his doctorate of veterinary medicine.
Ooh.
He is the first doctor in the family.
There you go.
A major milestone.
Good
I
stuff.
really loved Madison. It's terrific.
Cool. Good stuff. I have not been up there except for the airport in Minneapolis and that part of the country, but the airports don't really count. They feel like countries on their own. Almost.
Right. You can't see a cow in an airport, so it doesn't feel like it's really part of America.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Melissa, we are here to talk about The X-Files, the movie.
Oh, we had a discussion about this prior. Yes. We are watching the X-Files movie from 1998. Movie is not in the title. When you look it up now, it just says The X-Files, 1998. I have here my original 20th Century Fox DVD, a DVD so old that at the beginning of the DVD, it tells you that it's a DVD and all the cool things a DVD can do. And this lists Fight the Future underneath the title, kind of like it's a kind of a tagline, kind of a subtitle.
Yeah.
But the words Fight the Future appear on the spine of the DVD. And rarely does a tagline go on the spine. So if you call it The X-Files Fight the Future, you're not wrong.
Right. Yeah. Or X-Files, the movie. We get what you're talking about, but it's also not the movie, even though it is the movie. Exactly. Good stuff. So I like being of a certain age, right? I kind of grew up around the X-Files, but I was never someone who got into them. I as you guys know, I'm often a horror baby, so stuff like the X-Files at the time felt like, oh, that's a scary show. Like I'm not gonna like that. I now understand that's like, oh, that show was never that kind of scary. I would have been a-okay, but there's a couple creepy episodes out there, right?
Yes, for sure.
And so, I kind of absorbed some of the X-Files through pop culture or just being around it. It was kind of one of the big things at the time, but I've never really dived into it. One of our very early Patreon bonus episodes, which you can still go get on our Patreon, is you showing me a handful of X-Files episodes, and if I'm not mistaken, were all written and directed by the same person, or
they were
just
all
written
from the same writer. We watched the 4 episodes from the original X-Files run that were all written by Darren Morgan. X-Files was it pretty much coined the term Monster of the Week.
Yeah.
And these were 4 notable standalone Monster of the Week episodes, notable for being a little wackier and a little funnier than your average episode. What I'd also like to say, the X-Files as a whole is funnier than you think it is, given the nature of the show and how many different episodes it can have. It's more of everything than you think it is.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and that's something I never really got to experience when I was younger. So that Patreon episode, I think, is the most X-Files I have watched consistently. So I am a novice when it comes to this, but you have always touted the X Files as one of your favorites. Something
Mhm.
you constantly go back to and reference and stuff like that. So what drew you to the X Files? What's your experience with them like?
My dad is a sci-fi guy, and he watched this when I was a kid, and I would kind of watch it with him. Like, it sometimes it scared me, but I was the kid who liked being scared also. It was a good gateway horror for me, I
Mm,
suppose.
yeah.
And I strongly remember when this movie came out, my dad went to go see it with his friends, and I'm like, "Can I go?" And he's like, "No. This is my adult time with me and my adult friends. You're 7, stay home." I remember when the X-Files ended. I when the X-Files ended in 2002, I had watched enough of it to have an emotional attachment, but not enough of it to know what was going on. And then I didn't think about it for years until one day in like 2005, I catch a rerun on the Sci-Fi Channel, and I had caught up to it like in maturity. Like, I am fully ready for the X-Files. I'm not like, I've got one foot in the water. Is this too scary? Is it not scary?
Right. Yeah.
I'm fully in now. And then I watched all of it. I was buying the DVD box sets for like 20 bucks a piece at resale shops.
Hmm.
I devoured the thing. Uh, and this movie I finally got to see in like 2005 or 2006. And I think it received like mild reviews when it came out. I just Googled it out of curiosity, and it's like Rotten Tomatoes 66, IMDb 7. Like, it
Yeah.
kind of is what you would expect. I've always really liked this. And watching it again this time, I'm like, I don't know what it is about my connection with this movie. This thing hits harder every time. I really, really like this thing. I think it has a lot of excellent qualities.
Interesting, interesting. Yeah, I of course have not seen this, so this was my first time watching it. Um, and I think it hit me in the same way that you kind of described of just like general audiences. It was like, huh, all right, not good, but not bad. It's what I expected, and I had a good time. You know, like there's nothing wrong with that. But it really does also feel like, okay, what if we took like a 3 or 4 episode arc and put that into a
Mm,
movie, but now we also have a little bit of a bigger budget, so we can like
yes.
really do some like grand big thing here. And I thought that was interesting. It felt, even though I was not one to watch the show when I was younger, it felt familiar. Um,
Yes.
it feels like comfort food, which sometimes that's all you need, right?
It's my comfort food for sure. I've always wanted to talk about the X-Files on the main feed since it is one of those shows that operated in a time where seasons were like 25 episodes long,
Right.
and we can't just watch season 1 because it's not really cooking yet in season 1, and we can't watch the whole thing that's 9 plus seasons.
We would just
I
have to
needed
be an
another
X Files podcast.
Right. I needed another smaller, more modular way to get X-Files on the show, and the
Yeah.
movie fit the bill. And I was
Yeah.
very curious what you would think about it, being somebody with only cursory X-Files knowledge.
Yeah. I bet the X Files, though, especially as Netflix was getting started, was a real hot ticket item for like, let me get that next DVD, send it my way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, I bet.
Um,
Their X-Files did I mean, it did come back on Fox for 2 seasons around like 2015, 2016. It did have another movie in like 2000, uh, 10, 11, 12, somewhere around that.
mm,
So it's popped up again. Every once in a while, like they'll talk about, we should do X-Files again because it is something you can pick up and just do a
yeah.
one-off story with. It's able to do that a lot easier than other shows of its time. And it it has remained in the public consciousness. I think younger generations who didn't really remember the 90s and are kind of fascinated with that era liked the X-Files as
Hmm.
just a time capsule of a
Yeah.
time they wanted to explore. It's still popular with sci-fi fans. It's if somebody today did a list of like the top 50 TV shows ever made, X-Files is still in there, I think.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. Right. And yeah, and just like most influential for pop culture and
Yes.
stuff like that. Yeah. Absolutely. Um, yeah, I had a good time with this. I think I ended up watching this on Hulu. Interestingly enough, the English subtitles on the version I was watching were all in Spanish. Um, don't know why. And I was like, no, something's wrong on the settings here. And I went to check and was like, no, it's the English language and the English subtitles. So
I'm
I
I'm
don't know,
happy that
but
on this of all movies it
right,
decided
yeah,
to do
something
that.
it does something weird on the X Files movie episode.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, that was a good laugh. Like I had a good time with this. I was watching this while I had a few shots in me, and I think that just makes it that much more fun. Um,
Uh-huh.
it's like yeah, I had a good time watching this. You said there was an actor who was on Lost on this. I saw him right away. Was just like perfect, love this.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I had a great time. I did think the kind of end of this, what happens by the end, is a little bit ridiculous, but that's kind of why it's I think kind of interesting. Um,
Watching this movie, uh, it's tonally in such a specific in-between space where it's
yeah,
really dry. There's a lot of people in rooms talking, but it is also really enjoying being a big sci-fi blockbuster.
yeah.
To reference two movies we've watched here on the review show in the past, the tone of this thing is half National Treasure and half Michael Clayton.
Almost, yeah. Yeah. um, yeah, it's an interesting one for sure. I'd say go check it out if you were a fan of the show and hadn't watched the movie yet. Go check it out. Even if you like me, I never felt like I was lost of like, okay, what's
Mm,
happening? What are the X
okay.
Files here? But that's also because I have that like tangential knowledge of what
Mhm.
the X Files are. Um, but even that is like I've seen the first episode, like I've seen the pilot, right? Um, so yeah, I don't think you need to know much about what is
No?
happening here, and I think if you are interested, um, after watching this, going back to watch the show, I think would be very rewarding too.
Yeah. In context, this movie came out between seasons 5 and 6. It also
Interesting.
marked a
Okay.
turning point where the first 5 seasons were filmed in Vancouver, and then after the movie, the rest of the show was filmed in LA. I think partially because the actors had become such hot stars that they wanted to be closer to the
To
Hollywood
home,
hub so
yeah.
that they could also be in movies and work on other projects. So it does represent a turning point in the show. I think at one point the plan was to conclude the TV series at season 5 and then only do movies then on out, kind of
That
like Star
almost
Trek.
makes sense, and we'll get to a synopsis in just a
Mm,
sec here. But that's almost kind of what this movie felt like. It felt like without having that context, I kind of assumed this was like okay, after the show ended, maybe they did one movie here. So it's interesting to see that it was actually in between a couple of the
yeah.
seasons there. But it does feel like it's almost at an end of a run. There is a finality to some of the stuff that is happening both at the start and at the end of this here. Um, so good stuff. Do you want to get into a plot synopsis of what happens?
M- Mulder and Scully are two FBI agents who previously have worked together on The X Files. All of the FBI's weird, unexplainable cases, possibly paranormal and supernatural occurrences. At the start of this movie, the X-Files have been disbanded. They're just regular old general use FBI agents. They are called in to scout out a building for a bomb threat. Uh, the bomb does go off after they believe that the entire building was evacuated, and then these bodies are found. And this starts a conspiracy of the bodies were planted there, and the bomb was planted there in that building to cover up the real way that these bodies died. And the real ways that the bodies died involves a ancient alien virus that has come back up to the surface, and a secret sinister cabal is trying to generate the alien virus in corn crops that will be transported by bees.
Something.
Here's the thing about X-Files. I love it very, very much. It's one of the dearest pizzas of pop culture to me. I
The
cannot really
pizzas
explain
of
to you
pop culture is what that
I cannot
sounded
explain
like.
to you the actual mythology of the X-Files. I know parts of it. Part of this is that I haven't watched the whole series beginning to end since I was 16, but it operates on tenet rules for me. Don't try to understand it. Just feel it.
Yeah, it's weird vibes. That's all you need
Mhm.
to know.
Yeah.
Some that there's a cover up, right? That's some shady government organization is doing something. Um, yeah, of course, yeah. They discover that, and so they have to get the band back together. But it's just Mulder and Scully, so they go in and investigate. So
The band is too. That's
yeah.
true. With special appearances from Assistant Director Skinner and the Lone Gunman.
Yeah. See, that is the thing that I think you have more of a connection to, of like side characters that popped up in
Yes.
here. I don't know who is who in this. I only know Mulder and Scully. So
As soon as we come back from the spoiler break, we're going to go through the supporting characters because there's interesting stuff there.
Okay. Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, yeah, I think there is a lot of what you would also expect from the television show in this. Like we said, the weird government cover-ups, the aliens, the will they, won't they stuff, some kind of good procedural investigating, and then I don't know how unique it would be to the movie, but this is what I meant when I said the ending kind of was a little bit ridiculous. It's a little bit of a larger scale ending of some stuff there. But yeah, go check it out. I think that's all I have to say. Spoiler free.
Please do. And this movie is a great summer movie.
Indeed.
I said I wanted to watch this, I'm like, we can only watch it from mid-May to Labor Day. No other time. Not even Halloween. It's summer.
Right. Yeah. It is a good summer movie. Let's take a quick break for housekeeping. And when we come back, we will get into some spoilers. So we will be right back. Thank you so much for checking out this podcast. We hope you're enjoying it. If you didn't know, we make multiple different shows here at the Whatnauts, and a lot of hard work goes into making them, so we would love it if you check them all out. But none of this is possible without your support. Head over to patreon.com/thewhatnauts and you can get access to over 40 hours of exclusive content, including our Patreon first podcast, The Pilots Club, when you sign up at our $3 tier. Of course, there is a free version of the Pilots Club available, but episodes are exclusive to our Patreon for 2 years before they hit the free feeds. If you're interested in buying merch, we have shirts, hoodies, mugs, and more for sale over at thewhatnauts.com/store. Another great way to help us out is by subscribing and leaving a nice rating and review on your podcasting app of choice. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel for video versions of the show, trailer reactions, and live streams. And lastly, you can always find out more information about the shows we make on our website, thewhatnauts.com. All right, we are back. Once again, a big shout out to all of our Patreon supporters. We love you a lot. We appreciate you.
Thank
It means a
you.
ton. Let's see, over on the Pilots Club, Melissa and I just recorded our episode on The Mystery Files of Shelby Woo. An interesting addition to our year of the detective happening over there on the Pilots Club. That's an old Nickelodeon show that I was not aware of. Over on the free version of the Pilots Club, we released our episode on Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. That one is a blast. I love that cartoon to death. It's a great one. Go check it out. Highly recommend it. On the note of the Pilots Club, I've been doing some spring cleaning and kind of rearranging our YouTube and Patreon stuff like that. So that now on Spotify, you can find 2 versions of the Pilots Club when you search the name and stuff like that. There's one that only has the free episodes that we've released. And then there's one that will show you all of them, but will only give you access to the ones that are free. And that one that shows all of them, if you are a Patreon supporter and you use Spotify to listen to your podcasts, if you have your Spotify connected to your Patreon account, you can get access to that full feed there. So I thought we had that functionality in there, but as I've been reorganizing stuff, I was like, oh, we don't actually have that set up properly. So there you go. That is out there. You will know the difference because the one that is the Patreon feed that shows all of them, except that the episodes will be locked. That one says the Pilots Club and then in parentheses Patreon. So just FYI for the people out there. Let's see, right here on this show, on the review show, we just wrapped up our comedy month. We did a month of let's just get some good laughs. And last episode we covered
dumb laughs.
Yeah. We covered I Think You Should Leave. And we had a blast talking about that and some of the sketches that they do in that show. So go check it out. Over on the Captain's Log, all kinds of pop culture catching up. We did create a Star Wars last episode. Since it was May the 4th. May the 4th be with you. It was Star Wars Day. So Melissa pitched me her ideal Star Wars movie, and I pitched her my ideal Star Wars movie.
Speaking of which, you said
think
you wanted
about
to
say the same thing. I think we're about to say the same thing, yeah.
Yes, the exact same thing, which is that you said you wanted to put Coleman Domingo in your movie, and we're like, he could just wear his own clothes from home.
I had no idea the Met Gala was happening that same weekend, and there he is. I'm just like, yes, that's it.
He's going to be the first actor to play himself in a Star Wars.
Absolutely.
The first non-fictional person in Star Wars.
Incredible. So yeah, go check that out. We had a blast. That's over on the Captain's Log. And then over on the Reactor Core, we have our spoiler cast for Yellow Jackets season 3. And then tomorrow, I think we're actually going to be recording a spoiler cast on Thunderbolts. So keep an eye out for all of that stuff over there. But yeah, I think that's about it for housekeeping right now. So let's get back into the X-Files. All right, spoilers from here on out. Melissa, yeah.
I'd like to ask, was there anything that did confuse you that I can maybe explain?
Nothing that confused me in terms of the plot of like, well, what is happening? This makes no sense. The plot is pretty straightforward in this here. It did open up in a place that I was not expecting, right? It is this like caveman times, like 10,000 years BC. And I was like, this is just like season 2 of The Leftovers. Like, I have no idea
Yes,
what's
yes.
happening here.
It does have that opening. And
Right.
it
Yeah.
has a great gag where this movie opens, you're watching two distant figures traveling across an icy landscape, and then the lower third text appears, and it says North Texas. And then there's a beat, and the second line appears, and it says 35 million years ago.
Right. Yeah. um, so yeah, I think the plot was pretty straightforward. There was this cover up. They investigate, and as a result, they uncover this underground alien city. It seems like they are like harvesting people almost in like a Matrix battery pod kind of
Mhm.
thing here. Though it was not clear exactly if it was all aliens that were working underneath there, or this was also part of the cover. Like, did the government know? Are they working on this too?
So
Um,
there's the group of guys meeting in the room. You know which guys and you know which room. They are working with the aliens for time in memoriam. These guys found that they were aliens and they wanted to use alien technology for power and like to get on the aliens' good side.
sure, yeah,
Like I said, I can't really tell you the mythological super story of the X-Files very well. Not
but
as well as you'd think.
but but yeah, like it's the plot is there. Sometimes certain details can be a little vague, but the broad
Mhm,
brushstrokes are just so simple and so kind of what you would expect if you have any
mhm,
passing knowledge of the X Files here. I don't think those vaguer details really matter if you don't pick up on them or you don't, fully understand it. Um, so, in terms of the plot, there was nothing that I kind of misunderstood or was confused about. The stuff was the thing that I mentioned right before we did the housekeeping stuff of like, I'm sure there were side characters that popped up that
mm.
I just don't know to be like, oh, it's that guy. Look at him. Wow, yeah.
I
Um,
there's the weird thing about this movie was X-Files was huge in the 90s. You were more likely to find somebody who watched X-Files than not, I suppose. This
sure.
movie is really for fans of the TV show, to the point where the only guest actors are Martin Landau as Kurzweil, the like conspiratorial doctor Mulder talks with for a couple scenes, and
Hmm.
Blythe Danner as the woman in the FBI's Office of Professional Review, which is a very
Interesting.
small role. Those are the only two new people here, and like
Okay,
maybe the
interesting.
guy who gets buried underground. Uh, they Thi You think about other movies in the '90s, this movie could have gone big shot Hollywood and, like, thrown Cameron Diaz in here to
Hmm.
make a love triangle with Mulder and Scully. They
But
could
she's
have
really
done
an alien.
anything. Right. They didn't. They kept this thing very directly tied to the TV show. They only made it as big as it needed to be and no bigger.
Yeah, I don't know if I would completely agree with that last bit, but I see what you're getting at, right? It is this. It's a much smaller plot, and if there are really no kind of extra actors brought in that weren't in the show, yeah, they just kept it small and in house. Um, yeah, I think for me the ending of this was the kind of weirdest moment of this because it does feel like this big so like when I think of the X Files, there is a lot of will they won't they, and not just in the
Yes.
romantic sense, but like
Sure.
the philosophical sense of, do aliens really exist, are we alone in the
Mm,
universe? And I feel like at times they kind of hem and haw and go back and forth, and there might be
mhm,
an episode where one of them starts to believe even more and then one starts to lose a little faith even more, right? Like,
mhm.
and this almost felt definitive in a way that I was not expecting, of like, here's an underground city that is being run by aliens, basically. Like, this felt like, and that's the end of the show. They can't deny that. Like,
I and in one it could have been. I think it could have been. In one version of the story, I'm sure it was. But then instead of doing another movie, they did more TV and they needed to
mhm.
prolong the show and kind of use the out of, well, Scully's unconscious for most of that. And she's like, Mulder, I didn't
She just
see
had a
that. How do I know
traumatic
I wasn't
experience. Yeah.
right?
Hallucinating.
How do, exactly. The movie is, I suppose, both bigger than you would have expected as a movie that just comes between two seasons of a TV show, but also smaller than you expect. Like I said, it could have gone massive, could have brought in hot stars, like new extra characters, started a younger generation, and
Yeah.
it doesn't. It is still the best part of this movie for me is the romantic scene between Mulder and Scully where they almost kiss and then a bee stings her. I'm s- it's 27 years later, I'm still mad at that bee. That bee is one of the greatest villains in cinema history, and we don't talk about it enough. That
Biggest
just
cock
takes place
block
in
in cinematic history.
that scene just takes place in the hallway outside Mulder's apartment.
Yeah.
This is a movie that both has really memorable set pieces, but also has such compelling actors and writing and narrative that it doesn't need a set piece sometimes. It can just be in hallway.
Yeah, which is an interesting thing to even think about because it feels like with as big as the X Files was, you would almost expect them to be able to have the cachet to be like, no, we want a little bit more extravagant sets here,
Yes.
or just something bigger, more grandiose, right? Where it's like, no, just an apartment hallway is fine, right? And it's just like,
And like
all
those
right, cool, it works.
and like those sets, like that is Mulder's exact same apartment from the entire show. His same
Yeah.
crummy little bachelor apartment where he spends no time. And he has a fish tank, but you know he like does not keep those fish alive. There's some sets that are so charmingly, quaintly, obviously a sound stage with like fake rocks on them,
Oh yeah.
which you don't mind. I think this movie looks fine for it being a mid-budget 1998 sci-fi movie. Doesn't
Yeah.
look worse, doesn't look better. Looks
I
exactly like what it was.
now this one was filmed in Hollywood as well, or was this movie also filmed in Vancouver
I
and then
I think this was filmed in Hollywood. Don't quote me on
okay?
that. I didn't double check, but I think they moved to Hollywood for the movie.
Because I'm wondering if like end of the previous season, start of the new season, even kind of reused some of these sets as like because this was also a time when like TV seasons were a lot longer, right? And they
Mm.
had less of a break, and I'm sure they had to do this movie in the break of the shows or just when they could as the one season is wrapping up and the next one is starting.
Mhm.
But
And
I don't know.
the director, the producers, like the composer, a lot of the staff of this movie is from the TV show. Like they didn't
Mm,
bring in any ringers for this. They didn't really pull from the cinematic landscape so much.
right.
And it is exciting to see. I think that is why I like this movie so much and why it really works for me is that this team that made it has already had 5 seasons to become so competent at what they're doing.
Yeah.
And when they made this movie, they didn't uh bite off more than they could chew. They asked for just enough to really elevate how it looks, add a little pizzazz. I think this movie looks very good. I think
Sure.
there's terrific shots in here. Watching it again this week, I was so impressed by the cinematography. Uh, there's shots that accomplish so much with so little. They're framed really well. When the cigarette smoking man appears and you just see a dark figure step off the helicopter, I love that the intro shot of him is not looking at his face. It's looking over his shoulder as you just see him light a
The
cigarette
end
and
of
he's
it,
in
yeah.
shadow and you just see like the burning tip of the cigarette and you know exactly who that guy is. They
Yeah.
don't need to do a traditional reveal shot. Like I I think technically this movie is pretty impressive for what it is. It sounds good. I love the scene in the big titties out in the desert where they keep those bees.
That was my thought exactly.
Exactly. That's such I think that scene is very well constructed, a great piece of, like, sci-fi horror tension
Yeah.
where they're driving through the wilderness, they're driving through these cornfields, they come across these 2 big white domes, just like a discarded bra tossed into the desert of
I mean,
Texas.
yeah, it's a weird mix of symbolism in that too, because it's an alien movie, so of course you have to have them running through a cornfield, right, to imply the like crop circles and stuff like that. But it's out in the desert, which is just so like empty and brown
That yes, that's
and
part of it, is that
yeah,
they find this massive cornfield where they were not expecting a massive cornfield. Like, this is in a more barren landscape. This isn't
yeah,
like the rich soil of the Great Plains. This isn't
right.
Kansas or
It's in the middle
Nebraska
of
or something. It
nowhere.
yes, and they
But then
come
then
across
you
this
add those like the like the white plastic that you see in like
yes.
the like higher end sci-fi stuff, and like everything is shiny and white, and
Yeah,
it's this weird
yeah.
mix of stuff, and it's just like this is kind of unsettling. It's weird.
It really is, and there's nobody around. They go into one of these domes, they hear this strange humming, and they think, "Is this an electrical system? What is it?" And then Mulder puts his ear down the ground, he's like, "Scully, run!" And then there's the chunk, 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 and the vents open, and then all of these bees come out. Were y I think I told you there were bees in this movie, but was that a big surprise that there's bees in there?
If you did tell me, I don't think I remembered. But yeah, it like even if I don't understand what the bees are there for exactly, it's terrifying of just to have this
Yes.
thing filled. What? No. I also just finished watching season 1 of Russian Doll, and there's a scene with
Mm,
bees in that is kind of funny,
interesting.
where they talk about like I'm scared of bees. It's like, well, it's not like we're gonna die of a swarm of bees next, and of course they die by a swarm of bees next. So yeah, it was, but I was not expecting these giant boobs filled with bees, boobies,
Bee cups.
right? Yeah.
And they have to run through the cornfields while they're being chased by government helicopters with spotlights.
Yeah,
It's a terrific sequence. And it is, I think, what you want
yeah.
from your big summer sci-fi blockbuster. Whether you know anything about X-Files or not, I love the corn and bees sequence. This is the
Good
best.
stuff.
Forget the Jerry Seinfeld DreamWorks animated project. This is the
This is the real
best
B
B
movie.
movie.
Good stuff. Can we go back a little bit and talk about the doctor, the like conspiracy theorist
Yeah.
doctor, and when he enters the scene here? Because this is after the bomb has exploded. I forget exactly why they're in the bar there.
Okay, so there's Mulder and Scully are called to investigate a bomb threat at a building in downtown Dallas. Mulder thinks, I bet this bomb, like this, whoever called in this bomb threat, I bet that's a smokescreen. I'm going to check the building next door. I don't know. I
Yeah,
just have a hunch. So he drags Scully over there with him. And they're wandering around on the roof outside. It's the middle of summer. They're so hot. She's mad at him. And he's like, okay, I'll go get us some sodas. So they go inside the building. He goes into the vending machine room and the soda machine doesn't work. all the lights are on, but it's unplugged. And he realized, I was right. There is a bomb in here. There's a bomb in the soda machine. Then Terry O'Quinn comes in and acts like he's going to defuse the bomb, but he doesn't even try. He just sits there and stares at the soda machine. The whole building had been evacuated, and later, during Blythe Danner's Office of Professional Review hearing, they learned that 5 bodies were found in the building. And Mulder's like, hold on. They told us it was evacuated. Where'd those bodies come from? What's that? And then he goes to the bar to drown his sorrows because he's like, they're going to
Yeah.
put this on me. Scully's going to get in trouble. And Scully's like, now that the X-Files have been disbanded and we're just regular FBI agents again, she says, my heart isn't really in this. Scully's background is that she was a medical doctor.
Right.
She shouts it often, I'm a doctor! And she joined the FBI out of a different desire to help people, a desire for justice, a desire for truth. And because she's such a hard scientific skeptic, they assigned her to the X-Files with weird, spooky Mulder. Like, we have these things we can't quite explain. We put this guy on him. He always tries to come up with something supernatural. We don't think that's really it. Hey, skeptic, go work with him. Try and normalize this guy and like debunk his theories and find actual answers to these things. And now that she doesn't have that anymore, she's like, I don't know if this is it. I don't know if my heart's in this. She's like, I think I'm going to leave and go back to medicine. So Mulder he's sad about the tragedy and about dragging Scully into this and getting her in trouble.
A friend. Yeah.
Yes, losing her. Yeah. So he goes and drowns his sorrows, and the bathroom is out of order. So he goes outside and pees on an Independence Day poster. Did you notice that?
I did. Yeah. Yeah.
This had a grudge against Independence Day, which I believe came out the previous summer, because it's just a very different type of sci-fi than what this whole series is trying to be.
Yeah. No, we're the real alien movie.
Right. Yeah, this movie and its charming dryness is an opposition of everything Independence Day was trying to do.
Yeah, but this scene at the bar when the doctor approaches Mulder, I really liked this moment and this whole scenario and this interaction. I thought it was interesting. Like it wasn't hand wavy about this guy kind of being like it was a cover up, right? Like he's not written off as crazy per se, but it's such a weird interaction that they're peeing on the back wall outside as they're talking about. Like it's just a what is happening right now kind of moment. That it's the whole thing is kind of silly, and that is the kind of comedy of the situation rather than the person bringing a seemingly ridiculous conspiracy right to the thing. It's like, no, we're both here to pee and that's it, right? Like, and it's just like this is dumb and fun. I like this.
Yeah. Just guys being dudes,
right?
Just peeing on a Roland Emmerich poster. Now let me tell you about how the government is going to control all of us with an alien bee corn virus.
If you are a woman listening to this podcast and you've ever wondered what us guys do in the urinals, in the this is what we do. We walk up. So, do you hear the latest conspiracy about the lizard men as we're peeing, right? And that's what we do. It's relatable. Hashtag content, right? But no, like the whole thing is just ridiculous. And I think that's kind of the charm of it. Of like, this is just kind of silly, and I like it.
Right. This whole show does really lean into the ridiculousness of its premise at all. Oftentimes, it tries to take it from every angle. There's philosophical, spiritual debates about what is real, what is truth, what is belief, things like that. You get a lot of the good old man of science, man of faith stuff that we liked in Lost.
Mm-hmm.
That's here. Um, you know,
Headcanon
w-
is Terry O'Quinn blew up in this
oh,
bomb and then died and went to the island in Lost, right? That's how it works.
I forgot to mention. So Terry O'Quinn had been on the show before in like a one-off episode.
Interesting.
When he appears in this movie, he's playing a new guy. They just
Mm.
liked the actor and wanted to use him again. Then he shows up in another episode later on in the series, and it's not. They don't really identify him, and it's not clear if he is now playing a third character.
He is the man in black now. There he is, right?
Right.
Yeah.
They just love Terry O'Quinn and want to use him in things, and he's great in this.
Yeah, he's
I
good.
think that that whole bombing sequence is tense.
Yeah.
I think it's very well done. I like the bit of humor with Mulder and Scully joking with each other. It's tense, it's scary, it's powerful. I think that explosion is very well done.
Yeah.
We don't put this up there in the list of great movie explosions, but I think we should.
Yeah. I also liked it when because after you get the like cold open of the like 35 million years ago, right, and you start to get to this modern day bomb threat time, like Mulder and Scully aren't there right away, and I
Mhm.
like the introduction because they are scouring one building that the threat was called in on, and then they're like, we can't find it, we don't know what's happening, and they look across the way, and
Yep.
on the other rooftop of a building you see someone else, and you don't know who it is at first.
Yeah.
And your mind immediately goes to, oh, that's the threat, that's the person that they're after. And it turns out that that's Scully.
Mhm.
But like that is kind of an interesting introduction to who Scully is as a character.
Yes.
Almost, she is the threat to whatever it is they are investigating. She will
She
disprove
is.
you. She will catch you, right?
Oh, it's a
Yeah.
great way to frame that.
Yeah, and it's just it's a neat little introduction, and then here comes spooky Mulder, who's also the kind of comedic relief of like I'm like locking us out here and stuff like that, right? Um,
I don't know if
and
he's the comedic relief, but this movie, more than other parts of the series, does highlight how much he uses these jokes to as kind
yes,
of
yes,
armor. He does
yeah,
it, which is fairly common characterization. The guy who
yeah,
tries to be dry and witty and he won't let people in. That's very much him.
hmm,
Uh, and I think this movie's just a good example of that.
yeah,
And I like the way
absolutely,
you see like the cracks in the facade, like when he's in the car with the British man and the British man like shoots the driver and he tells Mulder, I was sent here to kill you, and
hmm,
instead he shoots the driver,
yeah,
making sure there's no witnesses to know that he didn't kill Mulder, that he's gonna let Mulder go. And I forget what the joke is, but Mulder has some joke about that. But you can see that he is shaken and
yeah.
that he's saying the joke to appear cooler than he is, which is a callback to
Or
the
to like
beginning of the movie
try to appear
when he's like,
normal, yeah.
right, right. When Scully's like, "You looked worried," and he's like, "I didn't look worried. If I was scared, I would make this face." And then he just does
Right,
like a
yeah.
flat face.
Yeah. Yeah, I liked that stuff. You mentioned some of the cinematography. There was something else that I really appreciated and enjoyed. There is it's at least in there twice. I don't remember if there's like a third or fourth time, but they use this like circular motif where the characters are looking down into the hole,
Mhm.
similar to how you often see that
Yeah.
shot of like the car trunk open up and the people are
Yeah.
looking in the trunk. It's very similar to that kind of thing, and I liked that kind of circular motif of like what's in the cave, what's in the hole, what's in the trunk, right? It's just this idea of a mystery and being investigated that was like, huh, okay, fun.
There's an episode, I think it's in season 4, where it's Scully kind of out on her own. An episode where Mulder is like, I have to take my vacation. I never take vacation time. Like the FBI is making me go. So he's like, I don't know. I'm going to drive to Graceland. I've never seen Graceland. And Scully's investigating a case on her own, and every once in a while, Mulder calls her. That's all the Mulder that's in the episode.
Mhm.
And it's about her kind of looking at her independence. Like she's thinking, this is the first time I've been without Mulder for a while. He's really taken over my life. I need to make choices that don't have anything to do with him. I need to like do something wild and have it wreak consequences on my life, but it's because I chose it. It's my choice, is my decision. And she's
I wonder if I've
investigating a
seen that
murder.
one. It
I've
feels very
I've
familiar.
told you about it because she investigates a murder that involves um like one of the suspects she talks to, or one of the guys who might have seen something, might be a suspect, is like a tattoo artist, and he has a tattoo of like an old like pinup girl on his arm,
Mhm.
and the tattoo is taunting him, voiced by two-time Academy Award winner Jodie Foster. Jodie Foster plays a talking tattoo that like
Love
haunts
it.
this guy, and he did the murder the whole time. And Scully, the more she talks to him, they like develop an attraction. I think they do sleep together, and she gets a tattoo, and the tattoo she gets is an Ouroboros, the
Sure.
snake eating its own tail,
Mhm.
the circle. So it's very funny that the circular imagery is something you picked up in this movie. It's not a major thing through the whole series, but that is a notable episode, the
Yeah.
Ouroboros.
But like it's not even just an image of a circle. It's like the
Mm,
camera looking like as it's inside the thing,
yes.
looking up at the people looking down into it. And that was like the X Files to me has always been about like exploring the unknown, right? And it's them looking at a mystery and just being like, huh, what is it? Right, and like
Yeah.
that is what that picture represents, what that what that image is. It's people just like peering into something and being like, what is this thing?
Yeah, a lot of X-Files is observing observers.
Yeah,
And I love the stuff with the hole in the ground. We get the initial cold open of like the prehistoric humans encountering these aliens in the ice cave. And then we cut directly to these Texas boys playing around outside, and one of them falls through the hole into what remains of that cave. And then the alien goo gets him. And like he's like joking around with his friends. He's like, I found a skull. And they're like, throw it up here. And he's like, no, it's my skull. And the alien goo gets him. The alien black goo is a persistent thing throughout X Files. I don't remember
sure.
where it started, but that is recurring imagery throughout the series. I think that's a great little horror sequence,
Yeah,
the boy falling into the cave. And then later, when the like government lackey guy, so first the kid falls down, then the firefighters go down there, and then the government shows up, like the secret evil government shows up and orders them to close up the hole. And the firefighter chief yells, "What about man?" Which is something I think about all the time. Whenever I'm missing anything, I think of that guy yelling, "What about?"
the thing I noticed about that scene, like obviously it's there's meant to be some time between from when the kid
Yes.
fell in to when the cops and the fire truck show up, but they kind of do that like time lapse thing to like once the kids on their bikes leave their friend, that's exactly when the fire trucks swoop in. So it's this weird moment of like, but the kids are right there, just like stop them and ask what happened, like, and there's
I
no like, kids come back here, like what happened.
No, I think it is a direct cut, like, we have the match cut from the cave to the kid falling into the cave.
Yeah, it's
There's a
like
no
pans up and then pans down as
there's
the yeah.
There's a number of those throughout this movie. The most notable one being when the coalition of shadowy men is talking about how they have to take out Mulder. They're like, if you take out Mulder, you risk turning one man's quest into a
God.
crusade. We cannot make him into a martyr. Instead, what we have to do to get him to stop trying to expose our alien truth is take away that which he cannot live without. And then there's just a cut to Scully,
Yeah. Yeah.
which
Great
says
stuff.
everything that the characters cannot say. The
Yeah.
editing says it for them.
Yeah. And to
Uh,
speak of that room real quick, my God, you cannot get a stuffier room
it looks so
than
stuffy. That's
it's
true.
it is just so brown and drab and wooden.
Yeah.
And
It's
it's
like,
just
what's
old white
it's like
men filled to the brim in like their
yes.
collars are choking them, spilling out over the
Right, like,
God.
these are men who have known each other for decades and know each other's darkest secrets, but they cannot see each other in a polo shirt. They still have to wear their suits. It's like the same time of day as golden hour, but it's whatever the dark version of golden hour is.
Right,
It's like when
yeah.
you come home from school and you're feeling kinda sick and tired and you lay down and you take a nap and you don't realize how long you've been sleeping and suddenly you wake up and the sun is setting and you lost, like, half your day. It's
Yeah.
like that sad, dreadful sunset is the
Yeah.
light that fills that room.
Yeah, what a stuffy room. That was like it's like oppressive with how stuffy it is, which I mean is
Yes,
great for what
yes.
that scene is. That's exactly what it needs to communicate, right? This like secret society government cover up kind of thing by these rich white men in power. But it's really funny how well done it is. I'm just like, man, I like I need some air after watching that.
Yes. You've got it. The scene did its job.
Yeah.
And prior to that, so the old British man, so the cigarette smoking man is the cigarette smoking man, sometimes called the cancer man, because you look at him and
Hmm.
you're like, that dude's got to have cancer.
Right.
He does have a real name. I don't remember what it is. But the British guy is called the well manicured man. I don't remember his given
I've
name.
heard that name before.
Yeah. When you see him at home, just watching his grandchildren play around in the yard, and then he gets the call saying, there's been a development. You must come to a secret meeting right now. You are in such a beautiful, like pastoral, absolutely charming little situation. And then as soon as he gets that call, you like hear a yell from outside and he looks out the window and like his one of his kid, the grandson, has fallen over. And when you cut to him arriving in the stuffy room, he says, I'm sorry I was late. My grandson broke his leg, which is an plot wise an inconsequential detail in this movie. It does not have to be there. The movie kind of operates the same if you cut it out. But the way he says it, there for such a small thing, there is a little bit of gravity to it.
Hmm.
Like he says it, this thing that means nothing to the rest of these men who have the machinations of the whole world and an alien world on their
I
minds.
Yeah. Sorry
I,
to interrupt. Please
but
go
I,
ahead.
this thing means nothing to them, but it means the world to him still. For a man who knows so much, so many dark, devastating secrets, it really gets to him that his grandson fell and broke his leg.
Hmm.
And that little bit of humanity is a grounding force in this movie. I think the movie
Exactly.
feels a little different if it isn't there.
I think if that isn't there, I think the question arises: are these men aliens? Like, are they in disguise?
Oh,
And I right, like
sure, yeah.
this almost has that, like you said, humanizing feature to it.
But in the case of a new viewer, literally. Oh,
Right.
this man might not have if we see him at home with grandchildren, he's probably a real human with a real life and not an alien.
Yeah. I mean, I
It
guess in the long
right.
run, that's not to say that aliens can't have a family that they love
But
or
it
something like that. But for the purposes of quickly communicating some kind of quote unquote humanizing factor, it's like, oh, yeah, his kid broke his leg and he loves his kid, so he is late to
Yeah,
the
and it makes sure
creepy
that you
couple.
trust this guy. And when they talk about how they're going to take out Scully to get to Mulder, you have a sense that there is one person in this room that's going to stand in the way. And when he shoots the driver to spare Mulder's life and therefore spare Scully's life, you believe him. You know
Yeah,
this isn't a double cross. And then Mulder leaves the car and the car explodes, and that's the end of the well manicured man.
there you go.
To
His
go back to the
kid
hole in the
shows up to school the next day. Sorry, I'm late. My dad blew up.
grandpa blew up. We
Right?
never
Yeah.
meet that. That would have been wild if that's a character they pick up on again. We meet that
Yeah.
grandson.
The
We
well
see some British
pedicured
guy.
grandson.
Right. You ever meet a British guy with a slight limp, you know who that is. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
they set this up in 1998.
I mean, look, that is the kind of lore I want out of an X-Files show,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
To go back to the hole in the ground, the scene where Braunschweig is his name, the sort of dorky government lackey guy who
Mhm.
goes down there and like the alien comes alive and bites him and he's bloody, he's injured, and he's trying to crawl up the ladder as these sort of like anonymous agents in like clean suits stare down at him through the hole, and then wordlessly they just put the seal back on the hole and start burying it in dirt again while he's like, guys, let me help, come on, I
Right.
don't want to die down here. Another great horror sequence.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Because you don't really get to see what happens to the kid or the other one. So
No,
to see
that kid that
it,
kid dies.
yeah, but like you don't get to see that fully. So then to get to see this one guy just being like, and we're gonna lock you in there, and there's not an apology. There's not a like, I'll tell
Yeah,
your
they
wife.
don't
There's
say a
not. It's
word to him.
silent. Yeah,
Yeah.
it almost like makes you wonder like did they do this on like did they were they expecting this kind of is that right I don't think so, but still it's just like that silence is creepy, so I don't know.
The X There this movie is a good example of something the X-Files often did, which is long, philosophical, dramatic monologues between Mulder and Scully. Sometimes more of a dialogue, sometimes more of a, I have a monologue. Now I have a monologue.
Sure.
I will monologue back. Just long stretches of words. And there's always been a poetry to the way the X-Files is written. What they say is sort of textbook. I keep saying dry. I say dry to make sure it isn't boring. I'm not
Hmm.
boring by this. I'm not bored by this. I say dry the way that like it's like a calming podcast you put on to go to sleep or
Sure.
something like that.
Yeah.
Uh if I am ever on the brink between life and death is like we need something to calm your mind as you enter the next realm, just play like a Gillian Anderson monologue for me, and that'll lull me right to wherever it is I'm going on this next path. What is such a strong attachment to, you're like, that will be waiting for me in a purgatory. I'll go to another plane and that'll still be there. Um, the show has so much of that, so much talking, talking, talking. But this movie also has excellent long stretches of silence. There's
Yeah.
whole
Yes.
silent scenes, the whole cold open, the actual cold part of the cold open, all quiet. Once Mulder is in Antarctica, there's barely any dialogue for like 15 straight minutes. It's all visual storytelling. I appreciate that the movie is able to play both sides. Very, very
I
verbal
agree.
storytelling and entirely nonverbal storytelling.
Yeah. Yeah, I almost forgot that, but that was something I noticed too of you know, you usually in a TV show for there to be silence, it's kind of a like you might get a quick scene, like a 2 minutes, but it's usually kept pretty short. Of like, okay, you get the picture. It's violent. We communicated what we needed to. Let's move on. So for the show to kind of take its time, or this movie to kind of take its time with that, I think is really a smart decision by the
Mm,
movie. It does feel comfortable with the way that it's investigating stuff, how much time it's taking to just be quiet and not necessarily say any particular
mm,
thing.
mhm. Uh,
So,
I think we've talked about the temperature of this film, how it's a great summertime film. That's not the only way in which it is one of the hottest films I've ever seen. I just wanna say, I think, like, David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson are both at peak hotness here. They both look
yeah,
incredible.
they're in their
Uh,
prime for sure.
right, they go through various looks, very subtle changes throughout the series, but, like, this is my favorite, like, Scully haircut and outfit. I love that little belted black trench coat jacket she wears during the corn and bees sequence, and they've great chemistry.
Yeah.
Because they've been at it for 5 years already. And the funny thing about X-Files is that I think it was never constructed with the intention for this to be a will they, won't they romance. They weren't trying to make moonlighting, but that's something that large portions of the viewership wanted, and it is
Mhm.
something
Yeah.
the show kind of fell into doing, almost against its wishes. Uh, the romance in this show moves at a glacial pace to where after 5 seasons, we get them almost kissing in what I think is a very beautiful sequence where they hit the nail on the head when Scully's going to leave. She's like, "They were going to transfer me to some field office." She's like, "I don't even know if I wanna go. I think I am just going to leave for medicine." And Mulder's like, "You can't quit now. If you quit, they win. I need you with me on this. You keep me honest. You make me a whole person." When he says, "I owe you everything, Scully, and you owe me nothing." That is one of the major conflicts of their relationship.
Yeah, that makes sense.
He She does make him more whole in a way that he does not completely do for her in return. He is of he in that he is just a more broken person.
Sure. Yeah.
She is a doctor, she is a healer, and there is the sense that, like, he would be worse off without her and is worried that and knows on some level she would be
Yeah.
better off without me.
Or at
So as
least
much
could make it on her own in
Yes,
some way, where
yes.
he would be like his career probably wouldn't go anywhere else, and he has nothing left after that. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, that's
But
an interesting thing to think about.
and he is this force that, like, as soon as she meets him, he does kind of take her over her life. She gets swept up in all of his passions, his quests, his pursuits. She's with him every step of the way. Sometimes it is more like she's being dragged along on these, and sometimes, like, she is in his corner. She is
Hmm.
fighting for him. Uh, she loves him and supports him and, like, trusts him. This whole show is built on a question of trust,
Hmm.
and even if they don't believe each other's beliefs, they're like, "I believe in you, and that is why I am still here."
Yeah.
Um, yeah, after 5 seasons, what this movie gives us is, an almost kiss that then they never come back to. The unspoken thing about this show is you think these are 2 characters that are like, "Oh, we could bone down. We absolutely could bone
You
down."
think so? I want
But
to
then
believe.
I want to believe we can bone down, but then what's the next morning? What's the next day? The next week after that? Then what? The
Yeah.
terrifying gulf of then what is what keeps them separate in their 2 stiff little suits and trench coats. Um, So we had an almost kiss, and then at the end they touch hands. I
Ooh.
I I was just fed on rations while I was watching this show. I'm like, a hand touch, juicy this
mere
week. Oh
crumbs.
boy. They looked at each other for
Please,
kind
sir,
of a
can I
long
have some
time.
more?
Please, a shoulder touch, please. A cheek. If I get hand on face, I'll never ask for anything the whole rest of the year.
The back of the hand caress on the side,
Oh,
of the
yeah.
face.
Oh, that's a good one. The knuckle under the chin, the chin up. I know every move in the playbook of a procedural TV drama with leads that may or may not get together.
Yeah.
I love to watch that playbook play out.
We need to book a hotel. They accidentally only book one room with one bed.
We have to go undercover as a married couple.
Right, yeah.
We keep getting mistaken for a couple. We know all. I love those.
So funny.
I love those so much. Yeah. I think this movie is I think this imprinted on me when I was young and watching a little bit of the show. I'm like, this must be what attractive, successful adulthood looks like.
I mean, sure.
It's gotta be this, right? I don't know what sex is. I think it is solving an X-file. Is that right?
Yeah, you're a third of the way there if you get the X, right?
Right.
Man, yeah, I feel like this movie is kind of a great microcosm of the zeitgeist of the time, right? Of all of the weirdness and spookiness of the X-Files, the will they won't they of similar shows, the proceduralness of some of those shows, but then also, yeah, so I mean, there is the Independence Day poster of the actual other movie blockbusters and alien stories of the time. It feels like a good little if you've seen this, then you kind of get a little sampler platter of everything.
I think you do. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy you enjoyed this. There's something about this movie that just really, really works on me. I think I saw it at the right age, and it stuck with me, and I do find new things to appreciate about it every time I watch it, which is better than you could hope for, I think. I did want to talk about the concept of a TV show being turned into a movie as part of its original TV run. Not something that is continued later or like a reboot or something like that, because there's very few examples of this. I think Star Trek aired all of its episodes and then went on to do movies. That's true for the original series. I think it's true for the Next Generation also. I don't remember the exact years the Next Generation was on. That was another dad favorite that I have watched in childhood, but I have not sat down with as an adult. This really didn't happen much. The other closest examples I can name to, we're going to do TV show for a while, then do movie, then continue TV show. It's the Simpsons movie and the Bob's Burgers movie.
Yeah, there is
or
that.
the Rugrats movie, the Wild Thornberrys movie.
Right. Yeah,
I can't name another live action TV drama. There was never in cinemas this November, the House movie.
Yeah,
Dr. House.
Are you counting straight to TV movies?
No, I'm counting theatrical films. Bigger budgets, bigger, splashier,
even more rare. I don't remember I don't know if it had a theatrical release or not, but I just watched all of Homicide: Life in the Streets, and I think that ends with a movie, if I remember correctly. But I don't think there were any episodes after it. But yeah, that is a kind of interesting thing to think about. There aren't many TV shows that then have a theatrical movie that is in the canon of the TV show that is not a.
There's movies that come out later. The Sex and the City movie, the Entourage movie, those came out later. Sex and the City then later looped back around with the And Just Like That show. But at the time the movies were made, it was like a capper on the end of the TV show. It was an encore.
Right.
This isn't that, which is interesting. It happens immediately after all the TV show you have just seen, and not years later as a comeback tour.
Yeah.
Which is uncommon. And I'm thinking about next year when The Mandalorian and Grogu comes out. Like, this is our
Yeah.
current equivalent of the movie based on a TV show. Now
Yeah.
movies and TV shows have merged into the same thing. Aesthetically, they're very similar. They are now part of one continuous narrative. Like, you have the Avengers films, and then you have WandaVision, and then you have Multiverse of Madness, and wherever we're going to see those characters next is one continuous story that looks the same, whether you're seeing it in a theater or on your TV screen, which can be a positive. But I was impressed with how the X-Files movie looked, how it looked so much like the show. It is the same visual language, the same aesthetics, the same abstract vibes, but elevated, polished.
Yeah.
These are the same people who just get to play with bigger, fancier toys and have like more money and more time to really make an interesting shot instead of a shot that gets the job done, because this is the episode we're filming next week, and next week is another episode, and then another episode, another episode. Nothing is ever going to look like this again.
Yeah.
Or at least look like it in context to something else around it. Like, X-Files did look fine, had excellent, like, spooky ambiance for 5 seasons, then had this movie, which I think is shot very well, and then went on to continue to have good spooky ambiance. Like, nothing else is gonna have that same, like, spike in the middle the way this movie exists.
Yeah.
I think that's another reason why I keep coming back to this movie. Not just because it's like a neat little 2-hour package of this massive TV show that I like, but that it's a unique point in pop culture history that has become extinct in a weird way.
Yeah. Yeah. Certainly. Yeah. That's an interesting thing to think about, because you're right. Like, TV has started to look more and more like the movies, to a point where, and not necessarily in a bad way, but like things are plateauing of like, it all just kind of looks the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, that's not good or bad. You can do with that what you will. But yeah, that's, yeah. Huh. I was not thinking of that. Interesting. Do you want to get on to review show bingo? Do you have any other kind of things you want to say about this before we jump over there?
There's one little bit in this movie that I've always thought is very funny. After Mulder and Scully almost kiss, but then a bee gets her. And I love that she continues to be a medical doctor and accurately clinically describe her symptoms as she's experiencing them, as she's passing out. Then Mulder gets conked on the head by, like, the secret government. These guys, they're called, like, the Consortium. They have a name. I just don't remember what it is. I think it's the Consortium.
You have to do the, like, finger steeples,
right?
Right?
You must do the Montgomery Burns hand. When he wakes up in the hospital and the lone gunmen are there, first off, you presume that for Mulder, his emergency contact is Scully, and if you can't get Scully, then it's the lone gunman. Did you have any concept of who the lone gunmen were? Or did you just recognize these must be side characters people like from the show? There's no way these guys are new.
I to be honest, I don't think it even really registered with me, like, what was happening. But besides, they wake up in a hospital. Yeah, that's it.
These must be just Mulder's freak friends, and they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
The lone gunmen are these 3 guys who publish a, like, underground counterculture newspaper, and the newspaper is called The Lone Gunmen, after the conspiracy theory about the JFK assassination. And So that sort of becomes their nickname for the three of them. And they've like hacking skills. Back in the 90s when you
Hack the
needed to go
planet.
to an
Yeah.
right, you had to go find a hacker. With a secret connection to a hacker, Mulder would go and talk to them. They've showed up like once or twice a season throughout the run of the show.
That feels so much like a
they
comic book
Yeah,
kind of thing. That is
yes,
it's the
yes.
like newsboy legend in the Superman
Yeah,
comics.
they're Jimmy. They're
Yeah.
Superman's friend Jimmy.
Yeah.
They did get a spin-off show after the X-Files was over. So the X-Files like killed them, and then in the spin-off show, which was unsuccessful, but I still own the whole thing on DVD.
Of
They
course you do.
like it's revealed that they like faked their deaths to get away from something.
Weird.
There's 2 episodes of the X-Files that are just standalone focuses on the lone gunman. The first episode is like a whole backstory, like these are who these 3 guys are and how they met. And the other one's like, and here's just a side adventure with just the lone gunman.
That's funny.
So and then Skinner shows up, and Skinner must be Mulder's third emergency contact. I love Skinner. Skinner is always on their side. He's like their stern but secretly loving dad.
Sure. Yeah.
Skinner, there's a hero shot. I don't know if you could tell it was a hero shot when Skinner is introduced in the film, but in our hearts it is.
You know, he went to something after hours and was like, "Sorry, I'm late. My son and daughter broke their legs. had to go rescue them."
Sorry, my Mulder got knocked out by a secret government consortium.
Right?
Sorry,
yeah.
I'm late. It's always something with my Mulder. When Mulder has to get out of the hospital room without anybody knowing because he knows somebody is waiting there to take him out, he sneaks out by going to he's like, I know you guys can help me. You can strip Byers naked, and Byers, who's like the tall, gentle lone gunman in the nice suit, he's like, what? They're approximately the same size, I guess. A lie, but I'll accept it for cinema. So Mulder sneaks out in his clothes. And then the next shot is Mulder running down the street, and he takes off the jacket and just throws it in the street.
Yeah.
Mulder, that's not yours. Those are clothes. Took this from a friend. What's he gonna do without his jacket? The lone gunmen don't have money. Can't replace that, Mulder.
Oh well.
A small plot hole, but it's always bothered me. Just throwing his friend's clothes in the street. Nothing makes him do it. It's not like he gets anything on it. He just doesn't want to run in a jacket, I guess.
It's too hot. Take this off, throw it. Yeah. That's dumb. Maybe he'll buy him a new one. Bingo. Let me see here. Get this back up on screen in just a sec here. Bam. These are our bingo cards on screen if you're watching the video version of this. Did we get any kind of flip phone?
No, this is 1998. We have like the little Nokias. It doesn't flip.
Or at that time the big Nokias.
They're not full like Zach Morris like brick phones, but they are like I don't know, the size of a Twix bar or something.
Yeah, I don't think I got anything here.
Did we have a foe waiting in the shadows to talk? Doesn't Kurzweil sneak up on Mulder at one point?
If it does, I don't remember it. It didn't stick out.
Okay.
But I don't know. I'm not sure.
I get sad bachelor apartment. And you might not be able to tell from the brief minute where we see it, but I can confirm Mulder has a sad bachelor apartment. At one point you learn like
I would just assume he kind of has a sad bachelor apartment. At one
point you learn he has so much like junk piled on his bed that he just sleeps on the couch all the time.
Good lord.
I have that. I don't think we got a cow in this.
No.
Occult crimes is pervasive throughout much of the X-Files, unfortunately, just not in this particular movie.
Yeah. No villain with a pet, no rubber suit monster. The closest we get is the alien at the start, but it's so like
Yeah.
not pictured, not really like giant kaiju kind of thing, right? That it's just nah. Okay. That's
I
it
don't
for me.
think I don't think we have an answering machine. I don't think we've got a disease, but we don't really have poison.
Yeah,
Sad
no.
bachelor apartment is it for me.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, there we go. We're not even halfway in the year, and I feel like at least I
No.
have gotten to a point where I'm not going to be getting much for the rest of the year. It's going to be hard for
Yeah,
me
we
to.
have very specific. Some of these things feel like we should have hit them already, but
It
other
really
things are
does.
very specific. The final episode of the year might just be me finding something featuring character actor Shea Wiggum, so I can cross
Just
that
so you can
space
get
off my
that one off.
list.
Yeah. Um, I'm almost at the bit where like I could get one thing and it could potentially give me like 3
Mhm.
bingos. I'm almost there. But okay, that is our bingo check-in for this time. Let's switch it over to recommendations. Melissa, I'm sure you have a ton.
I do. X-Files is a show that has never totally been recaptured. Can name like 10 things that are kind of like X-Files, but I can't name one thing that's a lot like X-Files.
Yeah.
It's an interesting alchemy of ingredients. But the closest thing we have to X-Files is Fringe.
Yep.
You and I watched all 5 seasons of Fringe. The first episode where we talked about that show, covering season 1, was episode 202 of
It's
the
a great
review
show.
show.
Yeah.
Fringe is a sci-fi show co-created by some people who worked on Lost, and I'm gonna double check. Was it 2008 or 2009? But it's not too long after
It
X-Files.
probably 2008 because I remember watching that
2008.
first season in high school.
This is a show about a FBI division dedicated to fringe science cases. X-Files did a little bit of sci-fi, supernatural, paranormal, sometimes just a fairly standard true crime story where something's just like kind of weird about a
Yeah.
murder. Fringe is just sci-fi. There's no like aliens or ghosts in it. Just sci-fi. And we have a sort of cool, calculating lady FBI agent who is paired up with an aging, brain addled mad scientist and his estranged con artist son. And a very, very wonderful lady named Astrid who helps them in the lab, and a
And a
cow
cow.
named Jean, and the late Lance Reddick. And they form a little family.
Yeah. It's
This
great.
has got eerie vibes. It has a episode. It has a similar structure to X-Files in that it has an overall mythology to it and has a lot of weird case of the week episodes,
Mhm.
which can have a good variety. Some of them are really creepy or kind of funny. The mythology of the show is a lot more tightly contained. I could actually tell you everything that Fringe is about. It's 5 seasons and it's paced very well. They don't draw anything out longer than they have to. There is a romance between our 2 lead characters that progresses, spoiler alert, faster than you think it would. Like they're
Mhm.
kissing by the end of season 2. We just talked about how it took Mulder and Scully years and years and years to
Yeah.
ever kiss. I highly recommend Fringe. It more than anything is going to scratch that itch
I
if you
second
want
that.
something like X-Files.
Yeah, absolutely.
Something I mentioned earlier, Moonlighting.
Mhm.
On episode 286 of the review show, we watched seasons 1 and 2 of Moonlighting. This is an 80s detective show, one of the first true dramedies. Really varies it up between slapstick comedy and y- really heartfelt emotional scenes. One of the first shows to really refuse to pick a lane and just do both whenever it wanted. This is a wacky, mismatched pair of detectives who are so furious they have to work together, but also they love each other.
Yeah.
Cute stuff. And if this is a type of thing you're interested in, moonlighting is important historical context. It was a show that was very influential on shows that followed it, but I think due to like music rights or something, was not available for the longest time. But now all of it is on Hulu.
Yeah.
If you've ever heard it referenced, believe it to be an influence on a show you like, now that you can, go back and check out Moonlighting.
Yeah. Agreed.
On episode 126, we talked about season 1 of Hannibal. Hannibal is all true crime, nothing really spooky, supernatural sci-fi here, but boy howdy is it creepy.
Yes.
Also, Gillian Anderson is in this one. You get more of just calm, clinical monologues from Gillian Anderson.
Mm-hmm.
When like an alien or an angel or a ghost or somebody is trying to contact you from another realm and they have to take the form of a thing you recognize from your
Just
daily
make
life
it
on Earth.
Gillian Anderson, and
Right.
I'll be all right.
So because their true form is too horrifying or incomprehensible for you to look at, like when the alien in Contact just looks like her dad. Don't look like my dad. Look like Agent Scully. Is what I'm trying to say. Oh, I would throw in Contact. Now that
Yep,
I've mentioned
absolutely.
it, Contact is up there too.
I'd put that
We
one on
talked
there
about
as
the
well.
we talked about the movie Contact on episode 305. X-Files is part of a subgenre for me with these next two shows I'm about to mention.
Okay.
This subgenre of entertainment, there's not a lot of this, but whenever I find it, I really like it. It's I met this tall guy and he took over my life, and I guess I just do what he does now.
Okay.
Two shows besides X-Files that fit into the genre are Sherlock and *Halt and Catch Fire*. Magnetic tall man fucks up your life. Guess what? You're never doing anything but
Fuck 'em up,
adoring
tall
and
guy!
following him around. Buckle Up Shorty is the name for this genre.
Great.
We talked about Sherlock on episode 89. We crammed all of Sherlock into that single episode,
Yeah.
which I regret doing. I wish we had more time to talk about Sherlock. It's a show I really like, although I did catch part of an episode on PBS when I was channel surfing in my hotel room during this road trip I just took. And I not actually watched Sherlock since like 2019, which doesn't seem like it's that long, but that thing is like so frozen in time.
Yeah, it really is.
It's
It's
really
of
funny.
a certain time, for sure.
It definitely is. But that thing came out in college when I was in college, and I'm always going to be nostalgic for it. Sherlock's always going to have a hold on me, much like Sherlock is always going to have a hold on John Watson. *Halt and Catch Fire*, we talked about all of that, one season per episode. The first time we talked about it was episode 142.
Mm-hmm.
This appeals to my love of the dryness of X-Files and the workaholic nature of it. A couple of these shows are really workaholic for one of my favorite genres of TV, besides Buckle Up Shorty. *Halt and Catch Fire* is a period drama set in the 80s about a group of computer programmers and hardware engineers and one dynamic salesman who sweeps into town and is like, build me the world's first laptop. And they are in his thrall, and they remain in his thrall for 10 years.
Yeah.
An incredible show. A show that it is purely small interpersonal human stories. There is no larger thing going on here at all. But it is so compelling, and it gets so much out of
It's really good.
just the foibles and fuck-ups, and longing and passion of, like, 4 people trying to do computers in
Yeah.
the 80s and 90s.
That's been one of my favorite things that we've covered on the show. It's really good.
Me too. On episode 310, just earlier this year, we started talking about For All Mankind. This is a show on Apple TV Plus, a speculative historical fiction show that looks at what if the space race never ended? What if it kept going decades into the future with the same fervor it had in 1969? And you see how uh, it affects technology, how it affects society, and how it affects the lives of the people involved with it.
Yeah.
It is both a large scale show and a small scale show. And this specifically put X-Files on my mind because Margot Madison is the closest descendant of Dana Scully that we have on TV today.
Interesting. Okay.
For the more philosophical parts of the X-Files, you mentioned it earlier. The best comp I have would be The Leftovers. We watched all of The Leftovers starting on episode 176. And if you love The Lone Gunman specifically, let me refer you to our series on Mr. Robot. We started that on episode 104. Finally, Mindhunter, episode 276, and
Mindhunter's
also
a
by
good one.
director David Fincher, Zodiac, on episode 302. Just passionate true crime stories. Oh, True Detective I'd throw in there also.
Yes.
You see
Yeah,
what
yeah,
I mean? How we've even in just the stuff we've talked about on this show, a dozen times we've hit on something that's like kind of in the same realm as X-Files, but very rarely do you get something that's like, "Aw, dang, that's straight up X-Files."
I would be willing to bet that of everything that you've recommended that we've covered on the show, more than half of them you've also recommended watch the X-Files
Yes!
on those episodes.
It's never far from my thoughts.
Yeah.
Now I am done with recommending past review show content. This is stuff we've never talked about.
Okay.
When I was a kid in the 90s, there was a Disney Channel show called So Weird that really felt like X-Files for kids. It's about a young girl who has a website. Remember when those were
Wow.
new? And that could be the whole premise of a show, that a kid has
Ask your
websites.
parents permission to go online.
Her mother is a singer-songwriter who is touring around the country on a tour bus. The family travels with her. And every time they go to a new town, this young girl stumbles across some sort of paranormal mystery. And there's a larger story where her dad was also fascinated with the paranormal, and it drove him to some fatal accident when she was very little. And she doesn't even remember her dad, but she feels this connection to him, and she's trying to follow in his footsteps. This show also has big filmed in Canada energy to it. It's similarly episodic, but has that larger story of like, what happened to her dad? What is there something real going on here? Why is it targeted this family?
Yeah.
A few genuinely spooky episodes. Don't sleep. If this is the type of thing you like, don't sleep on So Weird. It's really got some good stuff back in there.
Sure.
That's it for TV. Here's a couple movies. Last year, Longlegs
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
brought out a lot of X-Files memories for me.
Yep. I can see that for sure.
Stylistically, the closest thing we've had to X-Files in a while. And I put the X-Files movie with all of its corn on the same pantheon of other rural alien horror movies. My Mount Rushmore is Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Signs,
Yeah.
and Nope.
Yeah. Good
So,
calls.
some of my very favorite films. A book series I love is The Dresden Files by Jim Butcher. I got them all back there. This series is 17 novels, 2 short story collections, at least 17 novels. The weird thing about books is that I have no idea when new ones come out because it's not like
Interesting. I mean, you could
I
like follow the author or something on.
I don't want to hear everything they're talking about. I just want to know when a new book is happening. Maybe there's a newsletter I can sign up to.
The
But like
publisher's website or something. Yeah.
right. Like I follow all these movie and TV news podcasts, but other forms of entertainment. I'm like, maybe there's more of that thing I like. I would have no idea.
You need to get on Book Talk. TikTok
No,
for
I
people
don't.
who likes books.
I don't need to be on anything. Sometimes signing up for a newsletter is too much commitment for me. I just want a trusted friend to tell me if there's more of a thing I like. Just send it the info to me one-on-one, please. The Dresden Files is a series of urban fantasy novels about Harry Dresden, Chicago's only professional wizard. He starts out
Wait, so
as
it's about the
just
Pope, right? Could finally make a joke about that.
I think that I hope forthcoming novels do make use of the fact that the Pope is from Chicago. These books do use a lot of real Chicago lore.
That's
At
great.
one point, a necromancer resurrects Sue, the T-Rex skeleton from the Field Museum. Stuff happens. He starts out as a PI who's just using his magic skills for little things like, I lost my wedding ring. Can you help me find it? And he divines his way to finding it. And he gets into just bigger and bigger supernatural cases until, a handful of novels in, he has to like stop the apocalypse. And it seems like he is some sort of a chosen one. People talk to him weird. All of these fantastical beings, these ageless, omnipotent beings
Right.
talk to him like he's somebody important, like they know something about him. So he has some meaning in the supernatural world that even he isn't clear on what it is. Because
Interesting.
nobody's really talking to him. They just play with him like a little toy and make him do their bidding.
It's
He
like that
has
idea that someone's true, like knowing someone's true name holds
Yep.
power, and they
Oh,
all know
yeah.
his name, but he doesn't know his name.
It's the same kind of feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah. He has a romance with a Chicago PD detective who is guess what, Kyle? It's another tiny and another tall. It's another buckle up.
Tall guy and small guy are friends.
I love them. And this, even more than Mulder and Scully, a truly glacial pace. Spoiler alert, they don't really like kiss until book 15. Like it takes forever. This is truly
I'm saving myself for book
incremental.
15.
It is incremental changes. It is like long look, hand touch. Oh, he can't even look her in the eyes. Because if a wizard looks somebody in the eyes, if a wizard really makes eye contact with you, they see to your entire soul. And he's done that enough times. He's like, it haunts me. I don't like to look at souls. I really try not to do it. So the two of them have never really truly locked eyes with each other, which is part of the pain and the angst of this long, slow burn romance.
I see.
It's a good one. I like these books a lot. I think you'd dig them. And finally, a story that has not been covered on the review show per se, but is an important part of Whatnauts history. It is the audio fiction podcast, The Black Tapes. This
Indeed.
is an audio fiction podcast in the form of a podcast itself, where a journalist starts to talk to a paranormal investigator. And this guy is a professional debunker. All these actual paranormal investigators hate him. They're like, he doesn't believe anything. He's not on our side. He's trying to ruin us. He's got this deal where if you bring him actual proof of the supernatural, he's going to pay you like $1 million. It's a scam. He's never going to pay up. Nothing we show him is good enough. And she's like, I got to talk to this guy. And she goes to him and he admits, in my vast collection of ghost tapes and things like that I've debunked, I have a tape. I have a shelf of like 12 tapes that are in different black cases as opposed to all the tapes in white cases. He's like, that's the stuff I haven't debunked yet.
Yet.
And the
Yeah.
podcast is her following his investigation into what is really happening on these supernatural tapes.
Yeah.
And again, it's seems like this guy is important in some way.
It's just apophenia or whatever the word is there. You see what you want to believe, right?
Her eyes were where her mouth should be, and her mouth was where her eyes. This is real comfort food to me. I love the
Shout
Black
out to
Tapes
Paul Pay.
podcast. I love that whole family.
He's working on a new audio horror series. I think he just sold it, so it's gonna be made soon.
I love this. I love Tannis. I love everything. Even if these are shows where I truly cannot tell you what's going on. I just like how they sound. The sort of procedural sound of them is very comforting to me.
Yeah.
There's genuine spookiness to the Black Tapes.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot more straightforward than the other shows in this family. I cannot explain Tannis to you. I cannot begin to. I've listened to all of Tannis. I can't tell you what's happening.
I feel like after the grackles, they lost me. I don't know what
I know what all the important keywords are in Tannis. And when they say a name, I'm like, oh, I've heard that name before. That name's important. But if you ask me, who's that guy? I don't know. I just know he's important.
What do you mean you don't know the well-pedicured grandson?
Another great romance in the Black Tapes. I love this type. I love an investigative partnership romance. That's my favorite.
Indeed.
Kyle, is there anything left for you to recommend?
Good Lord,
you hit like 20 things.
Yeah, you took most of mine, which is okay. I'm totally fine with you taking all of those. Yeah, I seconded a lot of what you had said. I'd put another second out for True Detective. I don't know. I think you kind of hit it all. I was gonna say Fringe and the Black Tapes and stuff like that. I think if you want to go more of like the comic book route, you might want to go into something like John Constantine, though that is more magic than like aliens.
We have read a number of comics in that. We've never read Constantine. We should, really. I guess. He showed up in a Zatanna. We read Zatanna. We've read all of Hellboy. We read the death-defying Dr. Mirage.
Hellboy is a good X-Files kind of recommendation thing. I think that's an interesting one. But yeah, there's a few good detective, even certain Batman stories and stuff. If you just like the investigative side of that, I'm sure you can find some things out there. I don't have a specific one that's coming to mind right now, but yeah, I think you nailed it.
Thank you.
Yeah, good job. Good job indeed. Cool. Now that we are done with recommendations, let's get on to what we will be talking about next episode. So some comics. We got some comics here. So one, over the course of this show, we have covered some Marvel comics, some DC comics, some Image. We've jumped around. We've even dived into the Valiant universe a couple times. And one Valiant comic that we've mentioned a few times of like showing some interest in is the comic book Faith. This is a book that follows a young woman who is, by all means, not your typical superhero look. She is a woman who is bigger. She's a fat woman.
Yes.
And that's not something you see a lot. And so I think just by nature of her body type, this is an interesting story to check out.
Yeah.
And I have read at least one or two of her volumes in the past years ago. I don't really remember them. But we've covered a couple Valiant comics, and even have we done, I forget, because Faith ends up dating one of the other heroes, and I now
Is
don't
it
remember.
Quantum or Woody?
It's one of them, I think.
Okay. What did
Archer?
we read?
Which I don't think we did Archer and Armstrong, but
we read Quantum and Woody. We read The Death-Defying Dr. Mirage. Was Livewire the other Valiant comic?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. And you told me that Valiant was an attempt at doing a superhero universe like Marvel or DC, but one that is smaller, more straightforward, easier to hop in on.
Yes.
I did enjoy the 3 stories we read. I had some questions about how they fit into the larger fabric, but not many. I never saw any crossover between the 3 stories we read. Supposedly they are in the same universe, but I at least never got far enough to see evidence of that. And now it's been so long since we read any of those. I am curious if I will read Faith and if anything will seem familiar to me.
Yeah.
I'm just here for fat girl superhero. Like, what else? Where else do you see that? Like, the only other example I can think of is in Peacemaker when Leota gets a flying suit. That's the closest thing we have to a fat girl superhero.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know how much crossover there's going to be. Like, it's not like we'll read a volume that is a tie-in to some bigger event. That's kind of one of the things that Valiant tried to do. If they had an event book, it was contained. Like, there weren't tie-in issues, so you could read like volume 1 and 2 of Faith, and then the event book took place, and then volume 3 took place after the event. So there's no like my favorite comics Harry's got interrupted by some crossover event thing that you see happen all the time in Marvel and DC. But yeah, so Faith originally, when it first came out, it was just a 4-issue miniseries. And people liked it well enough that they decided to continue it. And so there were a couple more volumes after that. I'm not sure how long they continued it or whatnot. I don't think Valiant is putting much out nowadays, but they did have kind of a resurgence like a decade or two ago.
Or 2.
It makes it seem, not 2, like decade and a half ago. I don't know, 10, 15 years ago.
Wow.
Something like that. But yeah, I think if you are intimidated by the vastness of the Marvel or DC universe, something like Valiant and their publishing line is something that is smaller. Hence then you can get things even smaller if you want to go for like Invincible or Radiant Black and stuff like that. But yeah, Valiant Comics was much more like there's only 8 different series here instead of like 48, right? So we're gonna read some Faith. And the way that Valiant published their collected editions is they each collected 4 issues. So each volume is a pretty quick read. So there's that initial 4-issue miniseries, and then I'm kind of looking at Melissa, like how much do you want to read? Because we could read the first 4 volumes, and that'd be a total of 16 issues, which is not that bad. But if you think that's a little too much, I would also be okay with the first 3 volumes. It just kind of depends. There is a 5th volume that's here on Hoopla, which is where I think we will be reading these, but that seems like it's its own kind of mini series of its thing. So that's why I'm not really including that one. But what do you think? 3 volumes, 4 volumes?
3 volumes seems fine.
Cool.
An issue a night is a comfortable reading pace for me.
Cool,
More
great.
than if I agree to 4, I feel like I will regret it. I will have like too many nights in a row where I don't get home until late, and I'm like, then I have to spend another night that's like nothing but reading, and I'll get mad.
Understandable. So we will read the first 3 volumes of Faith. As I kind of mentioned before, this is collecting the original 4-issue miniseries and then the first 8 issues of her ongoing series. If you are looking on Hoopla, this is just volumes 1, 2, and 3 entitled Hollywood and Vine, California Schemin', and Superstar. So yeah, that is what we will check out for next episode. But yeah, good stuff. I'm excited to jump back into the Valiant universe. It's been a handful of years since we've done that. So good stuff indeed. Melissa, let's wrap things up right there. Where can the people find you and tell you about their supernatural experiences, their encounters with aliens?
You can email me at yourhostmelissa@gmail.com. Write to me and tell me your favorite X-Files episode. Mine's Jose Chung.
Indeed. If you guys want to follow me, I am at Yo Kyle Springer. And if you would like to stay up to date with all of the stuff that we do here at the Whatnauts, we are at thewhatnauts.com on Blue Sky. We're also over there on Threads. Please go like, share, and subscribe. If you're watching this on YouTube, go check out more of our videos on that side of the screen. That would help us out a ton. This has been number 317 of the Whatnauts Review Show. We will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.